Hey, it's Hunt. You found Hunt on Saints. We're talking black and gold football. Do us a favor. Hit the like button, share your comments below, and hit that subscription button so you can get all of our content. Enjoy.
Disappointing.
Let's talk Saints. Luke Johnson, Saints beat reporter for The Advocate down in NOLA, joins us via the Jim's Firearms Hotline. Luke, how are you?
I'm good because I did not fill out a bracket for like the fourth straight year. So I don't have to deal with any heartbreak of feeling like an idiot, which is good.
Let's talk a little New Orleans Saints. There's been a lot of news this week, comings and goings. I can't really go anywhere other than Chase Young to start. Your thought on the contract when you saw it initially, your thought on the contract now that you know of the neck issues.
So when you see it initially, you see a 1 year, $13 million contract, which felt like it made sense at the point. He's a guy who has kind of been both really, really good and disappointing, and you don't exactly know what you're going to get out of him, but you can see the highs are so high and the talent is so there. So it made sense. It's a 1 year prove it deal for him. It could be very beneficial for both sides to where he can reestablish his market in 2025. And, the Saints could get a 24-year-old guy with super high upside, and they're paying him the 32nd highest paid defensive end in football. And then, the report comes out the following day where he's going to have neck surgery, and you're like, okay, well, $13 million feels like a lot. And then you see the way the contract breaks down, and if he doesn't play, he doesn't get that money. So I think after going through that kind of roller coaster of everything, I still feel pretty good about it. If he's on the field, you feel pretty good about how his chances of contributing to this team in an area where they desperately need it. Their pass rush was atrocious last year.
Yeah, it absolutely was. And so for the purposes of the rest of this discussion, let's just act like Chase Young comes back a week and a half into training camp. He's ready to go for the opener, and he's on the roster and ready to play. What does that mean for Cam Jordan? What does that mean for Carl Granderson? What does that mean for Chase Young and the defense?
Yeah, I don't really think it changes a lot. I think Cam was at the point in his career where he's not going to be playing 85% of the snaps anymore. The fact that he did that for as long as he did is part of why he's got a Hall of Fame resume. He's a three-down player who could affect the game as a pass rusher and as a rush defender. But I think those days are gone. He needs to be a player who's playing 60% of the snaps. Carl Granderson probably doesn't need to be out there 85% of the time. They're going to have a rotation, and they're going to get fresh legs in there as often as they can, and they're going to try to get as many dudes out there to bring the quarterback down as they can. So, I don't think you can ever have enough of these guys. I don't think you ever have to worry about how you're going to get them on the field. You can manufacture ways. You can get the NASCAR package out there on third downs where you got 3, sometimes 4 defensive ends rushing on the field at once. You'll be able to find the way to get these guys in the field because it's one of the most important things you can do as a defense is harass a quarterback. It's why they made Tom Brady's life miserable for his 2 years playing in the NFC South. When they're at their best as a defense, they're getting after the quarterback, and Chase Young will help them do that, assuming he's healthy.
I agree. I still think the deal is a good one, even with the news of the neck surgery. But we'll just have to see how things shake out. Offensive line, we know, is a concern for the Saints. I think tackle is the biggest concern. But they bring in Oli Udo, signs from Minnesota, had a quad injury early in the season that required surgery. Y'all met with him. What does he bring into the Saints offensive line room?
Yeah, I think he's this is very much the player they like to sign on the offensive line. They use the high level draft resources on it. I mean, you can look throughout the years: Ryan Ramczyk, Andres Pete, Cesar Ruiz, Eric McCoy, Trevor Penning. All these guys are first, second round picks. But they fill this unit out with guys who are like Oli Udo or like James Hurst, or go back and look at Nick Easton or Senio Kelemete, guys who can fill in and play multiple positions, who have experience playing in the NFL, and they've got a lot out of these guys in the past. So that's, it just felt like exactly like the Saints kind of signing we're used to, where you get swing depth, they have had starting experience in the NFL, who can give you help at multiple positions if you need it. Because as we've seen, the last 4 years, they need it every year. They've had this kind of rotating cast of characters each of those years where they're dealing with injuries. You have to have guys who are able to step in and fill in multiple places, and he gives them that.
So with Udo coming in and Chase Young signing, does that change how you feel about the first couple of picks they make in the draft now that those two guys are part of the fold?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think when I was looking at, like a lot of people, when I was looking at the draft 2 weeks ago before the start of free agency, I think you could have pretty easily winnowed down their top two positions of need as offensive tackle and defensive end, or pass rush generally. I think you can knock defensive end pass rush down a peg, but like they have had the opportunity to sign a starting caliber offensive lineman, offensive tackle. The market was really slow to develop. These guys were only signing 1-year deals, but they didn't go out and get somebody like Tyron Smith, who frankly comes with a lot of injury concerns. They didn't go out and get somebody like Trent Brown. They could still theoretically sign somebody like David Bakhtiari. But again, you're talking about a guy who's played like 12 games his last 3 years. I just think that this whole thing is all pointing toward them kind of zeroing in on offensive tackle at 14. And I think that's smart. There's a lot of really interesting guys in this class, and there should be one really good player available there at 14. Perhaps multiple really good players available at 14, or they can kind of have their pick and choice. Yeah, it might be only like 2 guys off the board by the time they make their pick. And there's probably like 6 guys in this draft who are kind of worthy of first round consideration. So yeah, I just think that's where this whole thing is pointing. And so that's why their one big money signing has been to get a pass rusher. They're not going to have to kind of lock themselves into taking one there. If somebody who you don't expect is going to be like if Dallas Turner is there at 14, like I'd consider taking him and figuring out offensive tackle in the second round. But I think for me, that even gets knocked down a peg lower than maybe even like pass catcher, like a receiver or a tight end who's available at 14. I think I'd consider that over defensive end right now.
One of the spots where the Saints do have a lot of depth is in the defensive backfield. Isaac Adams signs with 49ers. He is out of town, but Jonathan Abram and Ugo Amadi are coming back. How do you feel about that position group today?
I still think it's kind of a sneaky need, especially if they do decide to move on from Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, that's probably going to be a move that happens this summer because of the way they structured his contract. I think losing Yadam, I don't know, makes me feel a little bit different about that. Because, I think he played really, really well last year. I think you could see this team having 3 guys who are capable of playing starting level football, at least like average NFL starter, and Paulson Adebo, Alante Taylor, and Ike Yadam. I don't think they have that right now if they trade Marshawn Lattimore. And I think that's going to have to be a position that maybe they address in the draft, if that's really something they're going to consider, if they really think that they could end up moving on from Marshawn Lattimore. Because they can't, like we've seen it over and over again, like you can be really, really deep in the secondary, and by week 4, like you're signing guys off the street to go in there and play important reps. It's I think still a position they have to beef up.
Do you expect any more activity between now and the draft? Any significant activity?
It's a good question because I think there's probably a number of guys they'd like to add, but we've kind of seen them in recent years wait and sign some of these guys after the draft if they last that long. We saw it with Tyrann Mathieu and Jarvis Landry a couple of years ago. It's a way you can kind of game the system a little bit and not have to worry about comp picks and losing them for signing guys. It wouldn't surprise me to see them just kind of hold steady and maybe make a small addition here or there, kind of like the ones they've made so far, and see what the market looks like for free agents after the draft in May.
Luke, we appreciate some time, man. We'll talk next week.
All right, man. Talk to you soon.
Luke Johnson covers the Saints for The Advocate. That's great stuff. I mean, this is not the headline material that signing Derek Carr is or signing a new offensive coordinator is, but this is the meat and potatoes of your football team, is addressing some weaknesses in depth on the offensive front and finding a guy here or there that can give you meaningful snaps. It sounds more fun to talk about the third pick in the draft, or to talk about a new quarterback or a shiny new running back that comes in. But the best rosters are built with really strong depth to go with the headline players. And the Saints are in the process of trying to find those diamonds in the rough. And we'll see if Chase Young and Ugo Amadi and Oli Udo can be that for the New Orleans Saints. If they can, probably looking towards the top of the division. If they can't, and these holes persist on the roster, then you're probably looking at a team that's looking at a third place spot in the division. It's just, there are fine margins, especially in a division that's as jam-packed as the NFC South is. It's mediocre, but it's jam-packed. There are fine margins there. If we were talking about the Saints competing with the Chiefs, I wouldn't be real gung-ho about it, but the fact is they're competing with the Falcons. So here we are. So that's a great look at things from Luke. We appreciate his time each and every Thursday. Hey, son, thanks for watching Hunt on Saints. Before you leave, help us out a little bit. Hit that like button, leave your comments in the section below, and hit that subscribe button so you get all our content right here from Hunt on Saints. We'll see you next time.